Okay, I only have a small job today. That is raising the bar. I have to correct you a little bit. I'm in that school for a long time, but I'm not the original founder. There was a guy who wrote on a piece of paper, "Don't do this," and it was 5 bullet marks. And we see him as the original founder. So this is the building where I started 5 years ago. In this building, there is a public school funded by the government in the Netherlands, and they gave us 1 room. And in that room, they gave us room. They told us, do something, but don't make it education again. So what I tell to everybody who enters the building is forget about teaching and start with what you really know about learning, because that's why we're here. The easiest way to tell you what we do different is the speech the questions we ask every student when they enter the building. The first time a student enters the building, they are age 12 then, we ask them, what do you want to make, what do you want to learn, or what do you want to do? And whatever the answer will be, we will start with that and go from there. Okay, so at Agora, we don't have a curriculum. Well, we have it, but we don't show it. We don't have classes, we don't divide them in age groups, and we don't give lessons or lectures. We believe that a school has to be a good mix between Harvard University, a place where you can get all the knowledge of the world, and that's quite easy because we have internet in the building, a Buddhist monastery where you can feel at ease and zen. You don't have to be religious, but it would be quite nice when you're studying and going to school that you feel at ease and zen. It has to be a creative laboratory where you can make everything, from a car, a robot, jeans, shoes, whatever you can think of. And it has to be like a market square. And that's why we called it Agora, because that's old Greek. And why does it have to be like a marketplace? Well, it has to be like a marketplace because that's the place where you can discover new things, where you can debate with other people, where you can interact, where you get inspired, and even better, when you know something, inspire others, or when you made something, inspire others. And of course, your school has to be a bit like Disneyland. If you get in that building, you have to be amazed. And the people who are in that building have to be as friendly as they are in Disneyland, showing you what you can achieve and what you can do, and helping you in the things that you are afraid of. So that's why our classrooms don't look like classrooms, but look like this. And you get happy kids then. You see that they all make their own furniture. Some of them do at least. We give them the opportunity for that, so that could be the first thing they do as well. And with that, we try to give them the basis to be confident, inspired, and challenged, because we want to raise the bar. We trust, this is our center of the school, we trust in the fact that children want to learn. And if you doubt that fact, you will be selling them short. And there is always one guy in the room, not here today, but when I do the other lectures, there's always that guy that says, yeah, but I know a kid. Yeah, I know that kid as well. And we as education ruined that kid because every kid wants to learn. It could be in the position that he doesn't want to learn what you want to teach. So that's why we don't give any lectures. We only do lectures on voluntary basis, and we only do them when kids ask us to do them. And most of the time, in the last 5 years, they developed. And what I see now is that I have people in our building which I don't know, and they come on a regular basis. And they come and they give lectures. And I don't know them. Because the kids ask them to come. Because they know that they are better experts than me, or my staff. Okay, when I started in education in the year 2000, well, when I started to get paid in education, I had to do methods of differentiation in the classroom, and I think a lot of people know what you need to do then. So I brought you the definition. This is the process of finding the derivative or rate of change of a function. The practical technique of differentiation can be carried out purely algebraic manipulations using 3 basic derivatives, 4 rules of operation, and the knowledge of how to manipulate function. I started off as a mathematics teacher, did you notice? If you aren't getting that, then I can show you the formula how to do that. Because if the formula is x to the power power of n, then the derivative will be nx to the power of n minus 1. I see that you look really stupid at the moment, but just write it down. I explain to you after the lecture. So I have brought a second example, write that next to it. If the formula would be x to the power of 9, then the derivative will be 9x to the power of n minus 1, 8, 9 minus 1. Well, that's how I started off in education. And what you do then is you address the average guy in the classroom. So I had high hopes for you. You could see that on the speech, on how fast I was doing this. And I immediately point out who is stupid, of course. I never said literally the word stupid, but the rest of the class knows that as soon as you say to somebody, write it down, we see each other after school, you mean he's stupid. So everybody immediately knows who to pick on. And then you get that annoying guy who knows everything and who is already ahead in mathematics, and he's talking during my speech. And then I have to go do the police thing. You know? And then everybody's wondering why it isn't functioning in education. Okay, I just want to introduce you to my daughter. Because I'm a proud father, of course, but also because of the story of this bike. Because 4 days before this, one of my neighbors came over with that bike. And at that moment, my daughter was on a tricycle with the pedals direct on the front wheel. Do you know that? Immediately attached on the front wheel. And they have those big tires, and there isn't any air in it. And they can't get the pedals around. And my neighbor came over and he said, well, this is the old bike of my daughter, but when Alice, my daughter, is older, she might be able to ride this one. And, well, my daughter speaks a lot as well, so she got really annoying. Daddy, I want to ride that bike. I want to ride that bike. And I said, well, you're too little. You can't even get the pedals around on that one. And, well, after 15 minutes, I give up and put her on, make the bike smaller and put her on and started running. Well, you know how it is, I guess. You take them by the neck and start running. And you do that for about 15 minutes, and then they cry, and you can go inside. And well, my daughter, the second day, she came up to me, and she said, but I really want to ride that bike. And we did the same thing then. So she, and then you run for 20 minutes, they cry, and you can go inside. So at the fourth day, she said to me, Daddy, stay here. And I made the joke. I said, my arm isn't long enough. And she said, no, let me go. And she did this. And I made this video. And that's not what it's about. It's about my neighbor. Exactly at this moment, he came up to me, and he said, how old is your daughter? And I said, she's 2 and 9 months. Do you know what he said? He did exactly the same thing as you. He didn't say a thing. He went back in the house, grabbed his 5-year-old son, grabbed the bike of his 5-year-old son, put him on it, and started running. Yep. And in the evening, he rang my doorbell. And he asked, how often did you do that? And I said, well, like every day for 15 minutes. So he kept running 3 weeks in a row. Do you know the end result? His son hated biking. If that stupid guy would have asked me if my daughter was able to ice skate, he could have been a real proud father. But no, what he did was he compared my girl with his boy, and what he did was he immediately thought, my boy is behind. So my boy has to suffer. And that's what we do in education. We compare children every time, time in, time out, every time. But what we need to do is not worry about starting at the same time, but finishing. And the thing is that every child in the Netherlands wants to be a successful biker before the age of 8. You can just wait. Spare the energy and wait for it. And that's what we need to do in education with kids as well. When they are excited, you only have to run for 3 days. Well, a little bit about my wife then. Well, I have a small family, so don't worry. Is this timer okay? No, it's not, is it? No. So a little bit about my wife. Suppose we're on a holiday, and we have been walking for an hour and a half, enjoying ourselves, and we end up at this bridge. My wife will tell me, Rob, I'm never going to do that. And then I will soften things up. I did that also with mathematics. Because at first I was writing on the blackboard. Later in life, I made PowerPoint presentations. Later in life, I made YouTube videos, but I still was selling the same crap. And I'm going to do that with my wife as well. So I'm going to tell my wife, come on, let's go to the other side. There is this great restaurant, your favorite food, the best view, even better than here, and stuff like that. And what my wife will tell me is that the food in the hotel yesterday wasn't bad. And I don't know how it is at your home, but we are going back. Yeah. So suppose we can do that holiday again. Or we can go back in time for 3 days. And my wife comes up to me. I'm laying at the beach, and my wife comes up to me. I was just in the lobby of the hotel, and somebody was talking about a great restaurant with a great view. And the walk up there is fabulous. We should do it. And I say, well, okay, if you know the way, I will follow. Do you think that after an hour walking behind my wife, she will admit that she didn't see the bridge on the map? She will ask me, hold my hand, cover my eyes, I at least want to try it. Or she will say, do you think there would be a way through the valley to get to that restaurant? Or how long would that be? Or do you think we could approach the mountain from the other side tomorrow? And what the lesson in this is, that when you give students the opportunity to choose the goal and decide the route, that they come and ask you for help. And that's what we do at Agora. Okay, these are not mine. Yeah, so you know. So the family part, it's done. But what I love at this picture, it isn't really a good picture. This is really clear. But what I love at the picture is that there are a lot of sponges in the picture. And a sponge is a great natural product. When you throw it in water and you grab it out of there, you can bring it with you. And the sponge, of course, but the water as well. And that's great. So the sponge works like that. But what you don't see is that there are more sponges in this picture. Because this sponge up here, it works the same way. Not with water, but with knowledge. If you put your brain in the right circumstances, I know you're tired, but please try, then you suck up knowledge. So what do we need to teach children? To put their brain in the right circumstances. And that's different for everybody. Suppose I want to learn Spanish. And I go to my school and I tell one of the coaches, I want to learn Spanish. Please buy me a Spanish textbook. They will laugh at me. Because they know that I will throw that textbook in the corner within a week. So they should challenge me to find another way. And then I will tell them, well, I found a guy, and he loves to learn Spanish as well, and he loves Belgian beer, and I do that also. So we have the idea to meet on every Tuesday evening, and one evening I explain the Belgian beer in Spanish to him, and the week after that we do the opposite. Within a couple of weeks we will be talking Spanish. I think within half a year we will be drinking beer in Spain and talking to the waiter. So I know what I need to do to learn Spanish. So I know how to put my brain in the right circumstances. And that should be the focus of education. Because if you know that, you are a lifelong learner and you don't need school.
I have a confession. So remember that one time, a few months ago, I made a self-destruct video like this, and I said I needed help to prove that anyone could code, and we made a coding puzzle that looked like this. Well, so the thing is, I lied. I already knew you guys were smart and you could figure out the coding puzzle. We were actually secretly testing something else, and the results were extremely fascinating and statistically significant. So as a refresher, your goal is to get this blue car to the finish line by building a simple computer program that used these coding blocks. And when you thought you had a good code, you would hit the run button to see if the car could make it all the way to the end using your commands. But here's what you couldn't have known. We secretly assigned 6 different versions of that test. Half the test had what we call school rules, which means if you hit run and your car didn't make it all the way across, you lost 5 points. The same way you lose points if you get a question wrong in school. And the other half are what we called mastery rules. That means you don't lose any points if you try your code and it doesn't work. There's no penalty for trying and failing. And the second knob we turned to vary the test was the messaging you received after you ran the code. Positive messaging encouraged you to keep trying and not give up. Neutral just stated if you were correct or not. And negative tells you to be careful not to mess up. up and puts the focus on your failings. So think right now of these 6 flavors, which you think would have the highest or lowest success rates. And because over 50,000 of you engaged in this puzzle, the results you're about to see are highly significant from a statistical standpoint. Here's what we saw. The people who tried the hardest based off number of attempts and succeeded the most were those who weren't penalized for failures and had the positive messaging. And those who quit the soonest and succeeded the least were those who got points off for getting the answer wrong and had the negative messaging reminding them not to mess up. And the reason this matters so much is because this is how the US and most educational systems around the world are structured. Sal Khan, the dude who started Khan.
I forgot to mention, because of my wife, if somebody is in the back, please make a picture with and you send it to my Twitter so everybody at home believes that I'm here. Well, you know where I am. You know what I'm going for. At Agora, we try to stay on the right side. I love that word, the right side. And what you also should keep in mind is that everybody who was in this test volunteered. They were looking on the internet if they could find a website where they get this challenge. So what would happen if you do the same thing on Monday morning with 50,000 students? Tell them, well, great, you're here. We're going to program a car through a maze. Do it now. What would that mean for this grab? For this? Okay, so what it means is that we should promote failure at school. We should promote failure. And why should we promote failure? Because that's the easiest way to learn. I have told my daughter like 10 times that she shouldn't touch the kettle when it's warm. I could stop telling her immediately when she touched it. And why could I stop then? Because we had that reflection moment. We had to go to the sink, we had to put water on it, we put a bandage on it, and we talked about it. And that's what we should do in education. Teachers should observe how students fail and shut up. And then students, when they want to learn, they approach you and say, how could I do that different? And then you have that reflection talk. But you don't explain them how they can do it different. You use all your knowledge to ask them the right questions so they find out themselves. And that's what we should do in education. Let them fail, reflect, adapt, and try again. So a lot of people ask me, what do you do on knowledge transfer? Well, I tell them this. Google it. And like 10 years ago, I thought that the internet was to find all information. But at the moment, I think it's to find the right person. Because when you find and contact the person behind the information, you're really addressing cutting-edge information. You are really preparing for the future. And the cool thing about that is I had a couple of students and they wanted to know a lot about the Great Barrier Reef. And they told me, well, in the other part of the school building, there is a biology teacher. Can she help us with our challenge about the Great Barrier Reef? And I said, no. Why not? Well, that's an easy question. Why not? I don't even know if she ever been out of the Netherlands. I never heard her talk about fish, whales, the sea. So why would she be a good source? Get on the internet and find somebody else. And a week after that, they came up to me and they said, we found somebody in Australia and we want him to inform him about our project, but we think we need to learn English for that. So when they are learning all this, and when they have all their own challenges, at a certain point you figure out that you need a system to put it all in. So we needed a digital learning environment that was good enough, in an environment where we weren't sending, but were receiving information, and we couldn't find that. And then these 3 guys came up to me, Raphael, Baruch, and Houben. And Raphael told me, I want to be a great programmer. And Houben told me, I want to manage a company and be great at agile scrum processes. And Baruch said, I want to be a graphic designer. But we want to do a challenge that really matters. I said, well, I have one. And the boys made this. And what you see here is one of the screenshots of how our digital learning environment looks like. For instance, one of our kids wants to learn what the similarities are and differences between horses and humans. And she did a preparation phase for that. She told us why she wanted to learn it and how the end result would look like, what she would know at the end. She even divided it in 3 smaller challenges and did the same thing with them. Why are they important? What do I want to achieve with them at the end? And if you do that with children, they get lists like this. All the blue cards are challenges. And all the words on the left are words they put in there, big subjects. So if this kid doesn't end up in psychology when she goes to study, then we did it all wrong. So what we see here over time is how kids develop and who they are. So we can also address what they are not addressing and help them to study that as well. And then the guys also thought that we should do something with skills, and they made this up. Kids can, in this rubric, they can start from the right and put the slider somewhere. So you can put the slider also a little bit into one of the blocks. And then we have a coaching talk. And in that coaching talk, you're telling us why your slider is over there. And then, as in that coaching talk, we ask you questions. And at the end, we ask you, is the slider in the correct place? And if that's so, we put the purple slider there as well. And then you get a blue bar, like down in the picture. So our students made this environment, and they are also in the 100 list. I'm very proud. And they are very proud as well. But the coolest thing is, they sold the product now. And this is the spread of their innovation. Well, and you're listening to me now for 20 minutes, and this is the spread of my innovation. and the coolest thing is, they are getting paid for it. And I'm offering everybody it for free. Yep. So what we do is respectfully treat every student unequal, because that's what they deserve. We are preparing students to be the social networkers of the future. And with emphasis on social, you bring some, you get some. And a great example was here yesterday. I don't know if she's still here. Are you? I loved you. And I hope that I've convinced you with this speech that the school that you dream of exists. And you're very welcome.